All right, man, we are back for another episode. Of course, we're continuing the online conversations. We have Trevor Fedele with MXL. Man, it's a pleasure to meet you and have a great conversation today. I hope you guys are doing good way over there.
Yeah, so excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I know we got to connect and obviously talk through email a little bit, but MXL is we've used MXL mics here on our side for demos and things. We actually had even had some podcast mics before, so we're no stranger to MXL. So I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, Trevor, what do you do? What do you do with the company?
So I'm our brand director over at
Okay.
MXL. So I oversee. We're a small team. I mean, much like anybody who's listening, who's in, this side of the industry. Even
Yeah.
the biggest audio companies are pretty small. I personally oversee everything from global sales to marketing to product development, even support. It's kind of chief janitor at the company.
Everybody wears multiple hats. Nobody wears one hat, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. So we have a pretty tight knit team, but it's a lot of those kind of all star hybrid roles. But yeah,
Okay,
that's
man. Yeah, very cool.
kind of what I do.
I'm looking forward to learning a little bit about your company. So, give us a rundown on who you are as MXL and where you guys kind of come from.
Yeah. So MXL's owned by a company, Marshall Electronics. They initially started in the broadcast pro AV world a long time ago. And then Marshall made the transition in the 80s to importing Mogami cable,
Oh,
which
okay.
everybody knows.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Uh-huh.
so that really dabbled more towards the MI world. And then from there, we were in the early 90s, home recording boom was starting, and our CEO decided that he wanted to make microphones. He, you know, this guy, Leonard Marshall, he's our CEO still. Um, he's a microphone fanatic,
Uh,
totally just loves them, loves the design. But what he saw was that most microphones were way out of the price range of your home user. So he wanted to take that, vintage German heritage that we're all after in Neumanns,
mhm.
AKGs, things like that, and bring it into the, consumer prosumer world. So they launched the V69, the V67G, and the 990, which is
Okay.
probably most notable. That's the little silver mic that everyone's probably seen at every Guitar Center
Yeah.
in the world.
Okay.
um, and that kind of, spearheaded MXL as a branch of Marshall into this company that really started out making mics for Guitar Center. It was
Okay.
for that home recording customer.
Okay, man, and I'm telling you what, you have to like when somebody goes, "Yeah, I just want to get into microphones." Like you've got to love microphones to
Yes.
want to get into microphones. But it's a fascinating microphones are fascinating. I think it's something that everybody takes for granted. Like
Yeah.
you don't people don't realize the engineering that would go into a good quality microphone. Even for instance, like, you go back and you listen to a lot of the records that we love. Like, you sit there and you find out, I don't even know what the microphones are, but you go back and you go like, what was the microphone on Angus Young's cabinet on Back in Black in 1980
Mhm.
when they're, and it's like, cause you got to realize that the microphones they're part of the art. They're part of what, transfers that sound to be able to record to have quality recordings. So
Oh yeah.
I think microphones are fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's I believe it was Al Schmidt who said, and rest in peace, we lost him recently,
Mm.
but he used to say if you're reaching for the EQ on a recording, it means you chose the wrong microphone.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
dang it, I've always reached for the wrong microphone.
exactly. And but that's something even growing up, I'm an audio engineer too, but coming up, that transition from, oh man, I need to save up every dollar I have to buy one Neumann, to, oh man, I need 100 different microphones for every application. It's, you know, for somebody to process that, it's mind bending because you're
No,
just like, isn't it just a mic?
No,
No,
that's
it's so much
exact. You
more.
know, yeah, that's exactly right. And just growing up, for me, going to churches and stuff like that, I think it was interesting how you could see, all the mics had on-off switches.
Yeah.
Where they were all from Radio Shack, or a lot of times,
Exactly.
every now and then you'd have like an SM57 in there, but but you realize that the quality of microphones are extremely important. So
Yeah.
tell me why MXL is something that most people should consider.
We so we do get pigeonholed a lot of times as, like entry level brand, but what really, even myself, when I joined the company, it'd been quite a few years since I worked with an MXL mic. It was obviously, an R144 was one of the first mics I ever bought. And even at my school, they just kept 990s in every room
Okay.
because they're in all our studios. I mean, the Neumanns would be locked away, but they were like, "Oh, a 990, everyone can use it, and if someone steals it on a Friday night, who cares?" Um, but
That's my
what's
mic, man.
what's exactly what's really interesting that I was excited about when I joined the team, and we still preserve, is every single microphone that we make. We Leonard still works on all of them. He'll sit in his office in his workshop for, sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's 3 months. And when it's not COVID times, um, I'll just slowly start getting piles and piles of mics on my desk, just with different numbers on them. And like every week, I just have to go in the studio and go through, 50 mics and decide what we want. Um, so it's half, everything that we do is half, sitting on paper and saying what we want, but half, it's almost like we're taste testing, being like, wow, this sounds really special. Um,
Do,
and then what we've,
oh,
sorry,
I
go
was
on.
gonna say. Well, you're
Uh,
making me think here. I mean, are microphones really that fine tunable? I mean,
yeah,
and that's where
everything
you,
down to, I
go ahead.
mean, different brand capacitors and resistors. Um, we're also now in the phase where a lot of companies are switching to all surface mount components. So that's basically where all your, big fat resistors, capacitors, transformers, everything are just tiny little chips that are baked onto the board.
Yeah.
So, every single, there's nuances and differences in everything. If you put more material in the body of a microphone, it's going to sound different. If you change the capsule, it's going to sound different. If you use a different brand transformer, it's going to sound different. So it's almost like the CEO is this like microphone incubator,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll just, I mean, if we're never there, mics will just build up. But then it's our job to really say, this is special, this
Okay.
is usable, this is employable. And when we do find that, we'll also revisit mics and say, hey, and we keep them all. So I could be like, hey, mic 97831, if it had a little bit more low mid there, I think it would be a really cool drum mic.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the team disappears, we work on a few different things, and we see what happens. But what our company has been able to leverage that gives us a bit of an edge is we own our own factories overseas.
Okay.
So it's all family based. So where other companies might subcontract out or contract out that work, we're keeping it in house. So by the time the mic gets to the end user, it is a little bit cheaper, just because it's not necessarily because of the quality. It's because we're working with family. We're
Yeah.
working with, pre-negotiated things. And then we'll do little things like we'll make decisions along the way of where we can help keep that price affordable, because do we want to just do something cosmetically to add $400 to the mic, or do we just want to get a good mic to the end user?
Yeah.
For me, it's just, get a good mic to the end user.
Yeah. When you're going through that process though, what makes you go, okay, this is usable, but this isn't? Are you thinking more of like a specific instrument or a specific, scoop in the general EQ of the microphone? And sorry if I'm using the wrong terminology here.
No,
So,
no. Being an audio engineer, for me, it's really, it's really difficult to make sure that I'm not getting excited about something that's totally nerdy
Uh-huh.
that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
Um, so there's definitely a balance, and it's you have to sit with it and say, okay, is this usable? So like obviously we run tone through everything. We run, sweeps, frequencies, sweeps, but then I also make tracks of just some of my favorite drum recordings that I've done, some of my favorite guitar recordings, singer recordings, and we'll just blast them through these microphones and see how they sound, where it shines. We'll send them home with some of our employees who, have studios at home. And, it's that balance between do we have a vision for it? And then does someone actually care?
Yeah.
Because there's been times where we've been like, oh man, if we switch this out, it gets a teeny bit brighter, and then you hand it to anyone else and they're like, it sounds the same.
Yeah.
It's no different. And
Yeah.
we're like, don't you hear that
You can't
difference?
hear that? What is wrong with you?
I mean, it
Yeah.
happens with guitars
Yeah.
too. Everyone's like, oh man, if you tune with this tuner, it's going to be more open, or
Mhm. Yeah.
if it's 72 degrees in the room, and
No, that's exactly right. Yeah.
so they're all differences, but it's what's going to matter
Mhm.
too.
Okay, but also at the same time, you need to somehow translate that information on a little bit of a mass scale because you're obviously wanting to sell mics to as many people as you possibly can. So,
Yeah,
so obviously I can see the trick there where you want to, you mentioned you use the term you could get nerdy real quick about something, but then some people just want to go, I just need to record a guitar on this AC30 and I need a great mic for this. What is that?
exactly.
And they don't
Yeah,
care how to get there. They just want to get there.
yeah, and that's the world that I think as the industry comes, and it sounds negative, but like down market, where we have a lot more musicians who are engineers than engineers now.
Mm-hmm.
um so we're trying to make everything with a purpose. So like one of our recent mics, the Revelation 2 and the Rev Mini, um I'm a drummer. Every single inexpensive condenser microphone that you make out there
Mm-hmm.
is very bright and
Yeah.
usually very unusable on drums or even acoustic guitar or an AC 30 without cutting out all the highs. So we sat there for months and I was like, nope, darker, darker, darker. I want the darkest condenser that we can put out that is going to sound nice.
Yeah.
Um so you do have to also kind of make more drastic decisions to make it usable to the end user.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess at the end of the day, I mean, even engineers need to have something that's extremely usable,
Yeah.
something that maybe too involved might be a deterrent for some people to
Yeah.
use specific microphones. So, man, I get all of that, and I understand that. But I'm also interested, man. Last year happened.
Yeah.
So,
It did. It
last year
definitely
happened.
did.
We'll just call it last year. But
Yeah.
man, how did you guys? How did you guys deal with that? And I know how the guitar industry did, but I'm really
Oh
interested
yeah.
in how did the microphone industry do through last year, and how did you guys adapt?
Um So it was interesting. As I mentioned, we have family owned factories, so we're like ear to the ground a lot in
Yeah.
China. So we came back from NAM, which was in January.
Mm-hmm.
I got normal NAM thrax, so I was sick. Day after the show, I get a call from the CEO, and he goes, "Oh man, you don't sound good. Do you have that virus?" And I was like, "What virus?
Seriously? Oh
What
wow.
virus
Okay.
are you talking about?"
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "Oh, didn't you hear SARS is going around?" And I thought he was joking, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you know,
Yeah, I got it.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I must have SARS."
Yeah.
Um, and then like a week later, we get a call that the factory is going to take a few extra weeks off for Chinese New Year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is still before it makes the
Sure.
news here.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're in February. We're supposed to go to Amsterdam for a show. We get word of how bad it's getting. I actually make the decision to pull my team out of the show in Amsterdam. And that was controversial because everyone's like, "What do you mean you're not going?" I was like, this is
Yeah.
scary, you
Yeah.
know. So everyone was still a little uncertain, a little upset that, Trevor cost us a couple bucks in flights, things like that.
Yeah.
Fast forward like March 13th, we're shutting down. And we luckily had a lot of inventory on hand. We can. So we like to keep inventory on hand. It was Q1.
Yeah,
We
sure.
load up and we go all remote. So right away, we're all home. Okay, what's going on? Are we actually closing? First thing was, are we essential? Um, whole half of our company, we have a division called the UC division, which
Mm-hmm.
is Unified Communications. That qualified us as essential because we have a partnership with Zoom. So we make Zoom
Okay.
certified microphones. We also service the medical industry. We, a few medical cart manufacturers, OEM, some of our USB mics into their carts.
Okay.
And then we service a lot of just hybrid learning, web conferencing. So as all these businesses were going remote, they were ordering 100, 200, 300 microphones
Oh,
at a
wow.
time
Okay.
to send their employees home with. Um, so March and April were like a mad dash, and it
Yeah.
was just we were sitting there kind of seeing what's up. And then Amazon made the decision to prioritize essential goods. So I'd say that's when we first were like, okay, this is a little weird. Sales are down. However, all of our, more power e-commerce dealers, I mean, your B&H's, even your Guitar
Mm-hmm.
Centers, anyone who had a strong online presence, they were just loading up on anything with a USB port, anything that was really for the home recorder, things like that.
Yeah.
And we just started seeing, you know, huge numbers. Um, all was great. I think we were in this like COVID honeymoon phase of this isn't that bad. We
Yeah.
all have our jobs. and then hits May, and it was almost like watching a chart. We're just going out of stock on everything.
Yeah.
Bing, 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 bing. And I'm just like, mics that we've never been out of stock on before, mics that we couldn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
And that was still cool because it was like, wow, this is a really good month. May's going really well. And
Yeah.
then we start looking at ETAs and things like that. And that's when I think the madness began of it's going to take us 8 months to get another microphone. What?
You're like, what?
What? Yeah.
Seriously. And it's like,
And
you're like, how do you even make a decision around that?
yeah. And that's also, so on the AV side, a lot of school districts started getting their CARES Act money from the government.
Uh-huh.
So I would start getting phone calls every day. Hey, do you have 3,000 of this? Do you have 3,000 of that? And I'm just like, no, we've never had 3,000 of that. Like, and they're like, okay, well, we want to place an order. When will you get it? 2021.
I'm going to have to
Okay.
call you back.
Yeah. No, but people were saying, okay,
Yeah.
because everyone was in the same boat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely.
that was kind of long winded, but May, all of a sudden everything hit the fan and we're just, my entire life just became no, 9 months out, 10 months out, 10 months out.
Mm-hmm.
And from then it started just with like lead times taking longer, but all of a sudden we start running into shortages.
Yeah.
All these chip shortages that are in the news, this started a year ago. So
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at little headphone adapters that are 12 weeks out, 24 weeks out, then all of a sudden 12 months out. And it's been nuts from there. We're redoing forecasts left and right, ordering things in advance. I mean, ordering components for products that we're not releasing for 2 years just to kind of be ready. And I'd say it's really had to entirely flip how we work.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was last year when, by May, we're like, okay, this is it. Everything that we have on the books is coming in is it for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Now, even being family owned and you guys owning your factories, were you able to control that a little bit? I mean, a lot of manufacturers were just at the mercy of, I think COVID hit and a lot of companies said, stop making stuff because everybody's going home. And then when they realized now in the guitar industry, guitars started picking up and they're like, oh, wait, start making stuff. But then you had everything in China going on. They were still a lot of times throughout the spring last year, they had to go home. They couldn't be back there because of COVID. But were you guys able to control that a little bit more? Or were you still at the mercy of what was going on globally?
We pretty much were, because we had about 2.5 months of the factory being completely offline.
Yeah. Okay.
And then like the guitar industry, there was this huge spike in demand. So it's almost like, I mean, the way I was describing it to people was we built up a ton of credit card debt and we didn't pay our card for 2 months, and then we come back online making our minimum payments.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this backlog of microphones that just could never be gotten to. Um, and then, so when our factory got all the components, that was fine. But then we started hitting the point where raw materials were becoming scarce.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not even like microphone capsules, but it's the things that microphone capsules are made of.
Yeah.
And while our factory was able to work, factories still sub out to other factories.
Mm-hmm.
So if, the MXL team is making all our microphones, but they all have to go to paint,
Yeah.
that one
That's
paint
right.
shop might work with MXL, Audio Technica, AKG, Samson, Rode, everybody. And if we're increasing in sales, they're all increasing in
That's right.
sales. So this little itty bitty paint shop is like,
Yeah. What do we? Yeah. Holy cow! But and then also, I think everybody was trying to find something to do last year, and the amount of people who started podcasts last year probably
yes,
skyrocketed. So
oh
I
yeah,
can see where that aspect of your business was probably in high demand.
yeah. No, our podcast mic, that's what I'm using right now, the BCD one.
Okay.
It's since about 6 years ago, it's just crept into our top 10
Okay.
sellers, and every year it gets higher and higher, and it's just holding its own. It's the most. I mean, it is a really cool microphone, but when people are like, "Oh man, what's this?" I'm like, "It's a podcast mic. That's it. There's nothing else crazy about it."
Yeah, I'm looking at it on your website. It's a great looking mic. So is that the V87?
Yeah,
That looks like a great mic too. A little bit more traditional, maybe.
yeah, but I mean, we're notorious for having a ton of microphones.
Hmm.
I mean, every year it's like, okay, what mics can we get rid of? Because the company kind of in the mid 2000s, or I guess like 2010s, just every time someone had an idea, they're like, let's make a product. Um, so we've always had those mics that were like, oh, we got, a bunch of those in the factory. Those all went, and people just were like cherry picking all these things that have never sold before. And through COVID, I think, there's probably a lot of people out there with some very unique mics now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. Tell me, because I don't know. Is there a difference between a mic that's using an XLR connection and a USB connection? Is there any quality loss there, or can you have the same quality?
Yeah, there's definitely a quality loss. Just because there are, compromises that are made. You're basically building your audio interface into the microphone.
Okay.
So there's flexibility that's gone. There's, certain quality differences.
Okay.
But
Did not know
for
that.
for the average person who's starting a podcast
Mm-hmm.
during COVID, or who's just trying to communicate with grandma and grandpa better, the USB mic is perfect.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, and I'm asking that from the position that, you know, a lot of podcasts that you hear or even Zoom calls or anything like that, it sounds like a great microphone. So, you
Hmm.
know, to most people, you would never hear the difference.
Yeah,
So, but you
exactly.
said you have a relationship with Zoom?
Yeah, so Zoom kind of spearheaded our UC division. So we have a mic called the AC 404.
Okay.
I I don't have. I usually have it like right here, but I don't. So that's one of our boundary USB mics. That's been out for a very long time, top seller on Amazon, all that. But Zoom started using them for their conferencing platform. And
Okay.
then for their Zoom Rooms platform, they actually asked us to make a custom mic called the AC360Z. And it's like four different
Yep.
microphone capsules
Mm-hmm.
built into one unit. And Zoom gets full access to those four channels. And in the Zoom Rooms platform, they're basically able to sit there. And if you and I were at a table right now, they're like, oh, Ian's talking. The three mics around him must be air conditioning noise and a dog barking. Let's cancel those out and
Okay.
just prioritize yours. And then if it switches to me, it's like, oh, now Trevor's talking. Let's cancel out everybody else. Um, so we've kind of, worked with them, had Zoom certified mics, and obviously, that was a big part of our business in COVID. And then the medical industry latched onto some of those mics too. So we have a few key partners who use like telemedicine carts,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll take our AC 44s, which I definitely have one of those somewhere. It's somewhere over there too. Um, but those plug in. And
Okay,
since
yeah, man, that's handy, man. Sits looks like it's got a flat surface, so it sits down.
yeah,
So it's you can literally put it anywhere, especially on a cart. Where you have to record audio to document what's going on. I'm assuming.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the when it's a boundary mic, the way boundary mics work with a plate, you'll see them used like in like musicals and Broadway a lot too, but
Okay.
you're kind of tricking the microphone into thinking it's closer to the source. So for a conference room or a really echoey hospital room, it's perfect because it's a lot easier to hear what's going on. Um, so that's when COVID started getting weird too, when we were working with some of our partners for like COVID response medical carts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, we normally just sell mics to, music stores. We're doing COVID response now. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's amazing how everybody kind of had to adapt
yeah.
last year. By the time 2020 was over, how did you guys see? How did you fare? Like how did you see MXL as a company shift and change, and what directions did you capitalize on?
It I'd say it's what it did was it pushed the entire population forward quite a bit as a whole. COVID did. Um, because we were already seeing this shift away from major studios
Hmm.
recording
Yeah.
there. We were seeing a shift towards people doing everything themselves. And in the span of 12 months, we basically forced every singer songwriter to set up a studio at home.
Yeah.
We forced every guitar player to be able to, record tracks from their house and send them in for the album. Um, so for us, that really, at the end of the day, most of our job is not making mics for the super, super high end. It's saying how can we get the values of these high end mics and make them accessible to
Yeah.
everybody. Um, so it reinforced a lot of that. And I think I mean, luckily to me, and I'm biased because I'm a musician,
Hmm.
but I think it kind of woke everyone back up and was like, hey, guitars are still cool. Drums are still cool. It's still fun to record music.
Yeah.
Let's just help you do it at home. Um, so while I think there are people who are like, oh, the only thing you need a mic now for is recording vocals. It's like, instrument mics are still cool. But
Yeah.
now instead of, showing everyone how to mic a guitar amp in a huge studio, let's teach them how to mic a guitar amp in their bedroom or in their closet or something like that.
Was that a
Um,
great opportunity last year to really kind of catapult education?
yeah. I
Teaching
mean,
people what mics, what they're used for, how to use them properly.
yeah, exactly. Showing people, and that's the best way. I mean, I'm sure I know you guys know it in guitars too, where you can like ramble on about wood for days. But until you tell somebody exactly, like, this is good for folk music, this is good for pop music, and for mics, it's like I could talk about the capsules, but if I'm just like, hey, oh, you're a pop singer, try this, this, and this. Oh, you're recording from home and your room is a little kind of noisy, try this.
Hmm.
And yeah, taking the educational point of view is, I think, what we all prefer.
Yeah.
Just because it's honest too. Like at the end of the day, I want people to know how to record stuff, so people don't sound like they're in a bathroom all the time.
Yeah. That's right.
So, but I think it gave everybody, it made everyone a little more tech savvy. I mean,
Yeah.
my parents know how to use Zoom now, and that's something to me, and it's probably my age too, but like the idea that 2 years ago it was difficult to get people on a Zoom call
Hmm.
is mind blowing, because it's like we're still, flying all over the country just to sit down and talk about some numbers.
Yeah.
Like,
It's going to
let's,
make it. Yeah. It's completely changed the landscape of meetings. I mean, it's amazing
yeah,
what you can get done in 30 minutes through a video call, where maybe
yeah.
it used to take a day and a half of travel and meeting and traveling back. It's changed everything.
And
And
let's still travel. I mean, and go to shows, and there's still importance. But
mhm.
I think we're all lying if we said that every little meeting was worth flying, worth traveling to.
That's right. I forget. There's some meme that talked about that this meeting smelled like an email or something like that. Something like,
Exactly.
you know, but man, yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, there's probably aspects of MXL that you guys were going, there's a demand for other aspects of your microphones that maybe you never thought were ever
Yeah.
going to happen from last year. So now moving
One
in.
one
Oh, go ahead.
oh one crazy one even. We have these things called pop mics, which are it's like a handheld dynamic mic, but we have them in 4 funky
Yeah,
colors.
colorful. I saw that.
Um, and all of a sudden we saw a bump in those towards well, we're still in the end of the pandemic, but I'd say in the beginning of this year, we saw a lift in sales, and we were scratching our heads like, no one is performing. What is going on?
They like the
But
colors on video. Is that it?
no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
we found out that some educational programs were starting to reopen. However, everybody needed their own microphones.
Oh, okay.
So all of a sudden we're like, oh wow, all of the students are buying a pop mic for themselves. So it's like even these little tiny pivots are happening, and it's really awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just interest. It's I've been telling people, this past year, there's, I mean, obviously been tons of tragedy, um, and we can't ignore that. But from a business perspective, it's been a lesson in economics for everybody,
Yeah.
like Crash Course 101.
Yeah. No, no, absolutely. And, and of course, everybody had to adapt. And maybe you guys had this, but everybody had to adapt on how to ship things too.
Yeah.
I mean, the shipping companies took on their business doubled and tripled, which obviously means a lot of times, costs are going to go up. How does that reflect your business? How can you recuperate those costs? Do we have to
Mhm.
pass those costs on to our customers? Like all these decisions now are being made, purely because everybody had to stay home.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think 2020, a lot of people I've spoken with, those who had already adapted to selling online. Everybody
Hmm.
knows you're supposed to sell online, or at least, be able to have a wider audience. But those who already had a steady, foundation of online selling were the ones that just kind of kept moving and saw their business increase. Saw a lot of people that had not incorporated online selling going,
Hmm.
scratching their heads going, what am I supposed to do? I guess I need to start selling online. And it was a struggle. It was a
Yeah.
struggle. So,
We had a lot of smaller retailers have crazy years because everyone hates Amazon. Um, it's a reality of the world we live
mhm.
in, and one thing is Amazon is an algorithm. Amazon's algorithm, the computer was not aware of COVID. It was not aware that it was happening. So come even May, while Amazon was like, "Oh, I'm going to order my normal order of MXL mics," a bunch of these smaller retailers who were still open and who were kind of savvy were like, I'm going to order 10x what I normally order.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden, we're looking in June, we have these guys who are tiny little resellers who are showing up in our top 10.
Yeah.
And they are just, that I think that's a really kind of good thing to realize is because we're in this world of everyone's like, oh, retail, go direct, whatever. It's all about adding value, and the guys and the girls who were able to take their business model online and keep that value,
hmm
whether it be thinking ahead for what they're going to have in stock, offering something more educational, just offering something extra and still ship on time.
Yeah.
They're able to beat Amazon.
Yeah.
I had guys who were we had people who were beating Amazon who have no business doing that, but they
hmm
were smart about what they did.
Yeah. Man, it's very interesting. So how do you think going into 2021, now that oh my gosh, I can't believe we're about halfway. We're already halfway through, like
Yeah.
halfway through the year. How has this changed the attitude of the microphone industry?
Um, the industry, I'd say we're still pretty similar, but I think we all get to talk to a lot more general music stores now.
hmm
Um, so typically a lot of just, I guess non-pro audio specializing music stores are like, oh, whatever, we know someone at Shore, we can get an SM58. All of a sudden, everyone's mindset's changed, and they're like, we need microphones. We
Yeah.
need a lot of microphones. We need USB mics. We need this. We need that. So it's become something that's applicable to everybody now.
Okay. Are you seeing? There's been um, the idea that um, consolidation is happening in the music industry community as a whole. Like everything's getting sold, going to fewer and fewer stores that are selling more and more. Although
Hmm.
when I'm sitting here listening to you, MXL sounds like they're broadening their base and they're selling to more and more, mom and pop shops or smaller stores that are not as big. Is that
Hmm.
what you're saying?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, there definitely is some consolidation. However, I think I think things are just more competitive now.
Okay.
So and this, when I talk about this, it sounds harsh sometimes, but like before we were so omni-channel, like you could go on Instagram and see exactly where we're doing things. It was almost like a convenience factor. If you had a store and you were open 10 miles from me, at some point you were going to get sales. Now it's, do you have a store open and you can reach me,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's through content, email, you're offering something that I need, education or something like that. So the game is a little different right now, and
Okay.
it's because it is a level playing field. I have just as much of a chance of ending up on Guitar Center's website as I do on, a little local store. And we were talking about a little local store before this call started, even that their online presence looks just as big as some of our top
Yeah.
retailers, but they offer really great content.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's changed, but not I I I don't think our world's at the place yet where we can all go, direct to consumer. I think there's still room for retailers, just retail has changed.
Yeah.
And like we saw this happen with trade shows a lot too, where everyone's having an online trade show. If I get an email about another online trade show, I'm going to lose it. Like they do not work. And for me, the reason why they haven't worked is because you have people who ran in-person trade shows developing online trade shows. So they're trying to take an in-person event and make it work online.
Yeah.
To really do that properly, you have to rethink it from the ground up. It's kind of the same thing with retail, where if you're trying to think about your store as a physical location, the way you used to, send out flyers, get the local market, whatever, and you're trying to transfer that all to online, you're going to miss some things. You kind of have to reimagine it from the ground up. And that's where you have some of these stores who, they're a small store, but they grow a huge Instagram following. And all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, that's where all this business comes from. It's almost like you have to like go viral in a unique way.
Well, and it's you used the term just a second ago. It's a level playing field,
Yeah.
and it seems like even just social media and online presences have created a little bit more of an even playing field for some smaller stores. Now I realize that some of the bigger ones have bigger advertising budgets and they can use things like that. But it is exciting to be able to see more and more smaller businesses be able to sell more product, and it's great to see that MXL supports that. So,
Yeah. We have so we're actually launching a new website, I think this week or next week. So check it out, people.
hmm
No, but it's going to be our first time having a checkout button on our website.
oh, okay,
And well, it probably looks evil. That checkout button goes to a program that we're using that farms the sale out to our dealer base. So
okay,
our entire dealer base uploads their inventory, and we're investing in our dealers
yeah,
because we're basically
sure,
making an effort to, and it goes out and it geolocates, so it looks who has the closest inventory and things like that. So that's something that 10 years ago, you wouldn't be able to do. It was either, get it on Amazon or call around.
yeah,
Now with one button, you can buy a mic on our website, but that mic might come from a store that's 20 miles down the road.
okay, man, that's very cool, very
Yeah.
cool. So, man, it sounds like you guys have got a lot going on. I mean, even just looking through your website and everything. Sounds like you guys. It looks like you guys just offer everything and just quality, quality microphones for every. unique opportunity. So, what did we miss here? What are something you'd want to talk about that we haven't brought up so far?
Um, we didn't miss a whole ton. I mean, we missed stuff that I can't talk about,
Oh man,
but we,
introducing new product right here. No, I'm just kidding.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, that's something, another effect of COVID. We've pretty much, our new product calendar got pushed a full year. Um,
Yeah.
but we do have, over the next 4 or 5 months, we'll be announcing a couple new things, and then once we're all back at NAM, we'll have some new announcements. But right now, our goal has really, we've taken it as a time to focus on rebuilding what we can, focusing on our website, um, things like that, and really doubling down on content. How can we write more educational content for our
Yes.
customers? How can we provide more value? And it's once we have new products, that'll be the exciting thing. But right now, we're really just trying to do some self improvement, build
Yeah.
things up. We have two new mics out, the Revelation 2 and the Rev Mini Fed, and those are of the more traditional studio microphone side. So they're really exciting for me being an engineer. But we also, have a lot of new stuff coming for web conferencing and, different kinds of connectivity. So
Yeah.
right right now we're all just kind of trying to catch up on some sleep that we all lost on, I think, over the past year.
Yeah, everybody. I think I think we're on pins and needles, just wondering how it's going to go. But man, I can see where your website actually has to. You have the medical community, you have the business community, and then the musical instrument community that you guys offer services to. So, you know,
Mhm.
that's a lot to do. That's a wide net to cast. I think a lot.
Yeah,
But you guys have created a lot of opportunity for yourself. So
it keeps us busy for
yeah,
sure.
that sure does. Man, it's great. Trevor, it's great meeting you.
Yeah,
Man, I hope to be able to meet you sometime soon. Are you showing up to NAM in Nashville, Tennessee next month?
we won't be. That one was just a little too soon for
Yeah,
comfort, I think.
yeah.
But we'll be in Nashville at Podcast Movement a couple weeks after.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so if you guys don't know about that, I'll send you guys info on it. But
Yeah,
it's
send me info on that because that sounds extremely interesting. I don't know about that.
yeah, it's at the Gaylord, and it's all Podcast Movement. I think started on Facebook, but it's a group of like 30,000 people now, and they have a show every year, and it's kind of like a mini NAM, but just all podcasters
Okay.
and some. I mean, as a pro audio manufacturer, we're like the minority there. It's more like we're actually the nerds in the corner with the microphones.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
this is how this works.
yeah. Hmm.
um,
Man,
but it's a pretty fun.
I would think everybody would want to be there.
Yeah,
Manufacturers selling and promoting new products for podcasting. So
yeah,
you would think so.
yeah. No, it's growing for sure. But that will be our, as of right now. I mean, knock on wood. That's going to be our first in person. That'll be my first flight in like 2 years. So
Yeah. Yeah, I know the last time that I've flown was actually to Winter NAM 2020.
yeah,
So, that's out by you guys. So,
yep, exactly.
which hopefully they're planning on having Winter NAM next
Yep.
January.
I
And
think we have some fun to make up for over
yeah,
the past year. So
yeah, that's exactly right. So, yeah, I would love it if you could send me the information on that conference here in Nashville. That'd be great.
yeah, yeah,
So
of
I'd love
course.
to. So with Trevor, it's great. Thank you for connecting with us. And do you want to give any information as far as any specific website or how to reach anybody if anybody has any questions or wants to become a dealer?
I would say to find us, our best source is our website, just mxlmics.com, or you can reach out on Instagram or any social media pages, just MXL Mics, and then dealers, same thing. Go to our website. There should be an inquiry form, or people can hunt me down on LinkedIn, even just Trevor Fedele, and yeah, just say hi, reach out, and we're here to help.
I'm going to hunt you down on LinkedIn. So
Yeah,
that way we can connect there too. So, but man, Trevor, it was great talking with you, man. I appreciate the opportunity and thanks for carving some time out for us.
yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Okay. Talk to you soon.
Awesome.